It's a pleasure to be here again. I presented it, I think, in the seminar 2 years ago. So the presentation is, based on the previous presentation, but as Subit mentioned, with updates and, the newer projects and information and, some of more results that I have. So the title of the talk is Synergizing Data-Driven and Model-Driven Approaches for Complex Cyber-Socio-Physical Systems. A brief introduction about myself. So I joined UCF in 2018. Let me bring a pointer here. In 2018, I'm in civil engineering department, in the smart transportation and the smart city focus. I did my Ph.D. in 2015 from electrical engineering at UNLV. Before joining UCF for 2 years, I was at CSU LA in the electrical engineering department. Some information, email, and the information about my lab. Basically, I use in the theoretical domain, I'm looking at data-driven dynamical systems, game theory, systems modeling, and physics-informed deep learning. Application domain is connected and autonomous vehicles and smart cities. Teaching-wise at UCF, I have been working towards, the newly developed Smart City MS program. So I teach cyber-physical systems and Internet of Things, more in the context of smart cities and more applied in the applied sense. Previously, I've taught standard control courses. So now let's jump into the research direction. So I've divided this talk into two parts, like the theoretical research directions that I take and some of the recent applications and more applied research that I've done. Let's understand the context. As we know, cyber physical systems are essentially large-scale systems where there is a cyber interface, so computation, networking, and physical processes all together. Some examples are today's transportation systems, smart cities, power grid, and so on. Some of the challenges that we see in studying, in controlling, in managing these systems are sensing, modeling, controlling, networking, data management. So my primary focus is on these three, which is sensing. How do you sense these systems? How do you place sensors? How do you get information and estimate the current states? How do you model these systems? And then essentially, our final objective is how do you optimize the systems to use them to their best potential. So the first, thrust that I do is synergy between micro and macro models. So I'll take an example of traffic flow on the road, but they can be, they have multiple application in other domains as well. So vehicular traffic can be viewed microscopically or macroscopically. And there are different modeling regimes. For example, carpooling model in the micro level, or at the macro level, we can talk about the LWR models or the CTM models and so on. But how do we make them synergize? How can we establish the connection and understand the interactions between vehicles? So the approach that I use is mean field games, which involves the study of Nash equilibrium among infinitely many players. And it is essentially an alternative approach to classical game theory, where every agent is interacting with every other agent, whereas here, one agent, or in this case, one vehicle, is interacting with, or it is modeled as being interactive with the aggregated effect of the nearby vehicles, right? So it is essentially two partial differential equations, PDEs, which are coupled together. The first one is the HJB PDE. The second one is the Fokker-Planck-Kolmogorov PDE, which captures the evolution of the probability density function. So using this theory and the related theories, we have developed an inverse derivation of LWR model starting from the microscopic dynamics. And we also used it to propose a multi-scale modeling framework appropriate for controlling heterogeneous traffic streams. So for example, at the micro level, how can a vehicle serve as a control agent? At the macro level, if, for example, ramp metering or the signal line intersections, they serve as the control actions, and how do we synergize the micro and macro control strategies as well as the modeling strategies. So these two are the papers related to this work. The second one is synergy between the physics-driven and the data-driven models. So essentially, one approach is mathematical modeling using ODEs, PDEs, using physical laws and, for example, conservation law and so on. Other approach that we see, is very common these days, very successful, is the black box approach, which is the data-driven approach. What I'm trying to understand is how can we build a gap, bridge this gap between the physics-driven and the data-driven approaches. The theory that I am exploring is the Koopman spectral analysis, which essentially uses the observation to build the models. In the end, you get models which you can use to get better understanding, design controls, and so on. So in the application areas we have applied so far in vehicular flow on arterials and on freeways, and also in epidemiology. So what we see here is the Koopman spectrums and how it is based on the observation. So this is the Alafia trail, just across the campus. And this is signalized intersection corridor, which are adaptive signals. And we were able to identify the modes, that means the frequencies, which are inherent in the system. So it happened to be a quasi-periodic system, and we were able to identify the frequencies and the prediction of the Q-length formation was bounded. That means the error was bounded in the system. Another study where we used this approach was sorry, I got a little distracted because the fire alarm is blazing here. So I hope I can complete my talk. So here, basically the COVID cases. So we developed a scheme where the human mobility was acting as an input into the whole epidemiological modeling. And we were predicting the COVID cases in all the Florida counties for two-week window, 3-week window, and 4-week window. And we got some excellent results and published them in the journals. The third one is the physics-informed machine learning, where, again, we are trying to embed the physical laws that we expect should be present in the system, in the evolution of the system into the data-driven modeling. And this is essentially a figure, a synthetic data set, how the traffic would evolve on a freeway, so some of the shock waves here. And then these two figures capture very nicely. So these dots are essentially the observations that you see that we get from the loop detector. And we see that this is the reconstruction using just the deep learning, which kind of fits the model. And when you embed the physics into the deep learning architecture, it learns much better, So data sparsity, computation time, all these are the factors which are improved when you embed physics into this. So recently we published 2 journal papers based on this architecture and, working towards it. Now, if we talk about application domain, in a larger sense, applied mathematics, PDE learning is a big, a big area where, this is being explored. Transportation is something we can explore, fluid dynamics, and anywhere where conservation laws are involved or PDs are involved, this can be a nice thing to explore. Now let's come to some of the practical aspects. So more applied projects that I've been working on. So the first one is sponsored by FDOT, where we call it the Pulse project, which is pedestrian upfront LiDAR-based safety on edge. Unfortunately, Florida is among the worst when it comes to pedestrian safety. And there is a push to use, the technologies, the connected autonomous vehicle technologies, LiDARs and cameras to actually create proactive systems which can alert the drivers and pedestrians. So FDOT has already a program, they call it PedSafe, where they use cameras to, proactively do the system. In this project, we were looking at LiDARs and how LiDARs can be effective. In basically augmenting the power of cameras, just the RGB, because of the weathers and low lighting conditions, or in the nights, sometimes cameras are not much effective. So these are some of the places, this is our rig where we are collecting the data near the nitros intersection, high footfall. And this is a software which we are making, because the capturing the LiDAR data, the point cloud data, it differs from manufacturer to manufacturer. You have to, develop some APIs to actually just visualize the data and, manipulate it. So we are trying to make it device agnostic, and then, do some manipulations. For example, RGB playback, background filtering, where you can observe, apply some techniques and so on. And so far, what we have observed is camera perception is, very good, 99.99% accuracy when it comes to pedestrians or vehicles. But in terms of LiDAR, we are only talking about 60 to 70% of accuracy in, detection. This, in this video, we see that the model performs very well. However, the transferability is an issue. So if we take this trained model and, try and test on the data set that we collected here on the campus, it fails miserably. So that means transferability is a problem. Data labeling is a challenge. So currently our focus is creating self-supervised algorithms for LiDAR perception, which can solve the transferability problem and the scalability problem for FDUT. The second project we just started is developing smart work zones. So worker safety is also one of the challenges in Florida. And then we are trying to use cameras and LiDARs and CAV, V2X technologies to design a smart work zone. I don't have a lot of things to share as of now. We just started the project, but hopefully next time I can share more projects. The third one I wanted to showcase is also a very interesting project. We name it the Sensorator. This is along with my colleague, Dr. Hassan, here in civil engineering. So this is an electric vehicle, multi-purpose electric vehicle, which is developed by Archimoto. One of the advantages is that it's very highly maneuverable. It can go on curbs. It can go, inside the campuses, on rough roads, pavements. So our idea was, how can we utilize this vehicle and convert it into a Sensorator platform, which can, do the data collection in rapid paces. And the applications can be tremendous. It can be in traffic monitoring management, or crowd monitoring, special events, or even after disasters, or terrain mapping, right? So currently there is a senior design group from computer science students, 5 students who are working along with my PhD students into, so right now we are thinking about LiDARs and thermal and camera sensors, which would be installed here. And then we would try to develop some automated anomaly detection algorithms, so that, we can detect fallen trees or broken, power lines and so on, that can help in quick disaster recovery. Now, some of the existing collaborations that I would like to highlight is, I work, my work is very collaborative in nature. I'm working on an NSF proposal, which is Ecology and Evolution of Infectious Diseases. My collaborators are Taj, Chinwendu, Zishang, and Lishang, who are from, biomed, electrical, math, and computer science. Another, front that I'm working on is NSF, Smart and Connected Communities, which is also, very collaborative in nature. In future, I'm looking for potential collaborators. I have a deep interest in digital twin, and I think there is a lot of opportunities in this area, especially, when we talk about the sensor simulation, pedestrian and cyclist safety, and optimal placement of these sensors, and management of the inventories and so on. Computer vision, LiDAR and camera fusion, for example, for disaster recovery or smart transportation applications, and also in decision-making in multi-agent systems, right? So applications here can be in smart power grids or smart health and epidemiology. With that, I come to the ending slide. I thank my sponsors and, also my graduate students, currently at F4, and also the Future City Initiative, which provides a nice platform to do this interdisciplinary research at UCF. Thank you. I'll be happy to answer any questions.